when we changed and went from just a regular postcard or a regular 2-page letter saying we buy house to actually putting an offer on there, everything went through the roof. I think the advantage I have is that little local, small, almost make it a small town guy in a big town. Does that make sense? You gotta know who you are. I think that's so important. I think so many people jump in and they think I'm the Michael Jordan of real estate, when really maybe they're the Steve Kerr. Since I've been doing this for so long and I've been a part of the multifamily world, land world, single family world, been up and down all different markets, it's really hard to pass that on to somebody.
The real estate world is changing. Opportunity is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the very best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves so we can transform our business. This is Investor Creator.
Scott, welcome to Investor Creator.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So I've been looking forward to this because we've got a lot of different things that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about land deals. We're going to talk about marketing. We can talk about houses and also how you deal with hedge funds to sell property to that group. And I think that all of that's going to be a lot of fun. But first, before we get into that, I just want to talk about the market. So how do you feel about the market right now based on where we are in the market cycle? I know you're in Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix had a really tough time in 09, 10, and 11. And so what's your thoughts on the market right now? And is it time to really move forward in investing, or is it time to be really conservative and kind of pull back?
I think it's a great question. And I've been on a lot of calls and conversations about this. And unfortunately, none of us have a crystal ball, or at least maybe we do. I do have a crystal ball, but it reads about the same as everybody else's. It's not very accurate. So I think in my personal opinion, it kind of depends on where you focus on whether you should be conservative or a little more aggressive. So here in Phoenix, in the Phoenix market, if you're looking at the single family world, we're still in a pretty solid, hot, seller's market right now. We still have a lot of pent up demand here. We got not enough homes on the market. We have quite a few homes would have to hit the market before we even got to a normal balanced market, if that makes sense. So right now, nothing's really changed. I mean, right when the scare happened, maybe there was a little blip, in my opinion, like a little blip, some cash buyers and people who are flipping maybe backed off for a second, but then everybody just put their foot back down and are not having many issues there. It depends on the price range of the house as well. So if you're getting a little bit, the luxury market's getting hammered. There's not a lot of people buying in the higher end. So it kind of depends on where you're at, in my opinion. Right now, if you have cash, I think you're set and really pretty. I think there's always great opportunities when you have some of that excess cash. But single family world, I haven't seen much of a change. In the land, I did change a little bit. I mean, we used to focus on some of the stuff on some infill lots, but we have maneuvered a little bit where we're at. We do some rural vacant stuff as well, some possible development opportunities. And so that's changed a little bit. Our focus on the infill lots slowed down a little bit. I mean, I think people building from the ground up in some of those areas, they slowed down. So if we buy those, we're going to be holding them. Sorry, I'm out in the patio. I've got flies flying in my face.
That's okay.
But as far as the things that I've seen change in the market here locally, not a whole lot, just to be completely honest with you. A little blip, but I think we still are set pretty good in Phoenix.
Yeah, and I think that even nationally that we can say that for most markets. We're in multiple states, and I really haven't seen anything that is super scary to me at this point, but the jury's still out, so we'll see. And the thing for me is I don't really care what the market is going to. I just want to know, are we appreciating? Are we declining? Is it time to pivot? Those kinds of things, because, with every problem comes equal opportunity. And if we go to a depreciating market, that's okay. We just have to know that that's where we're headed. So that makes a lot of sense. So Scott, take a moment and tell the listeners about how you got started in real estate and how that went for you.
For me, I think as a kid, so I'll go through this as quickly as possible. I don't want to ramble through.
No, that's okay.
I get long-winded on this. So for me growing up, just so I can give you a little background, I was a horrible student, terrible in school. I mean, I left school early. I mean, I basically have a ninth grade education. I never finished a semester of 10th grade. But even as a kid, growing up here in Phoenix and seeing the growth happening and all the houses popping up, I always had this interest in real estate or what they were doing or how they were doing it. And as a young kid, my grandfather gave me my first real estate course. And I wish I could remember how old I was. Wow. It was a Wade D course, and it had cassettes. And so I feel like as far as real estate goes, as far as me wanting to be in it, I feel like it's almost been forever that I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how to do it. I considered myself kind of a slow learner, didn't feel smart at all, obviously having issues in school. And so when I left and got out to the world, I mean, I had to start working with my hands. So I got into the trades. So my father was a carpet installer. My uncle was a tile installer. So I just started installing floors in a lot of these places that they were moving up. But I bought my first property. So my first taste of real estate was when I was 21 years old. It's funny because I had just looked up this property the other day because I'm looking for other homes in that area. So I looked it up, and it was 1993. 21. But 1993 when I bought that place. We bought that house for I think $67,000 back.
7,000?
67,000. In our market now, that house is 250 or something like that. So 67,000. I probably should have held. Every house that I see that I let go or kind of sold, I always think, man, I should have. As an older guy, I feel like I should have held them all.
Yeah. We see the same thing in Nashville, which is my home base. So you bought that first property at 21. Was that to be basically an owner-occupant, or was this investment property at that point?
To live in, to fix up, and to sell and flip. Turned out to take me a little longer than I thought. Because in my 20s, I just kind of went from one flip to the next flip to the next flip. Didn't really make hardly any money. And I thought that I'll do it all myself. So I did most of the work inside the houses from top to bottom, all on my own. So that was a slow process.
Right.
And back in those days, finding properties wasn't as easy for me. I mean, I didn't really have any experience or a huge network. And so it was just a door knocking, call a title company, get a list of people and go knock on doors. That's all I did throughout my 20s. And if I couldn't get a real estate deal, I was trying to work for other rehabbers and put the tile and the carpet and those kind of things to keep myself fed during my 20s. So, but that was all great. Those are great experiences because all that door knocking and all the crazy stories you have going, knocking on someone's door and get chased away, not having a script, not knowing what you're doing till today after all the things we've been through. It's like, so all that's some great learning experiences. So my first taste in real estate was that first house in 21. But that was after many years of me studying and listening to things and building up the courage to even get out there and try.
Yeah. And let me ask this, because I know for a lot of people don't think that they have what it takes to do the business. Did you feel like based on, I wasn't good at school, maybe I can't do this, and that's something you really had to overcome first? Or did that happen over time once you started doing transactions?
I knew it was going to have to happen over time. Growing up, you play a lot of sports and you're not always right on. That hard work pays off over time.
Right.
But I knew I was going to have to work harder than everybody. I just knew it. Still to this day, not the brightest guy. So when I'm learning something new, I know I'm going to have to put in a month for someone else's, 2 days.
Yeah.
Still to this day, even with the technical stuff, but I'm willing to put it in because I know what's going to happen in the back end. But so I think growing up, I felt very uneducated and behind. And so I felt like I didn't want to work on my knees my whole life.
Yeah.
I saw what that did to people. And so I knew that I was just going to have to work that little extra harder, that I was going to have to knock on more doors than the average person, that I was going to have to get a lot more no's and then just get through it.
So I really commend you for knocking on doors. I feel like someone that can do that can do anything. So you have to have like one great story that stands out. It's like you knock on a door, something bad happens. I'll tell you one of mine real quick. I went to a property one time a wholesaler had posted, and I called him. I said, hey, I knew the guy well. I said, hey, I'm going to go look at this property. Is it open? He said, yeah, it's vacant. There's some furniture in there. Don't worry about it. Just going in. The front door's unlocked. So I get there and I unlock the door and there's lights on. And I was thinking, that's kind of weird, and I had a bad feeling. And so I walked out. I called my friend again that had this property under contract. I said, hey, man, are you sure I'm at the right place? He said, yeah, it looks like this, the grass was grown up. All this. And so I go back in and there's an old World War II veteran holding me at gunpoint. And it was so funny because the two wholesalers, their name were Ty. and Rob for Robert. Okay. And so like I have my hands up like this. I'm like, hey, I'm with Ty and Rob. And all he heard was Ty and Rob, which is completely different context. Well, the guy got broken in on 6 months ago, and how I'm still alive, I have no idea, because he could have legally killed me. And long story short, the police came, and I had like the ad up on my phone, like, hey, this is the house I'm supposed to be at. The builder had built the exact same house 3 doors down off the road. So you couldn't see it from the road. And I was thinking, man, like I just went home after that. It was 10 a.m. in the morning. I was like, I'm done for today because I'm still alive. That's a win. I'm going to call it a day, and I'm out of here. So, do you have anything that just sticks out in your mind? It's like you door knock, is like, it was just the wrong day.
Yeah. And first and foremost, just for anybody out there who's thinking about door knocking, don't beat yourself up too much. I mean, there was plenty of times I drove up to a house, changed my mind, and drove away. I mean, I was just as afraid and nervous about doing it as anybody. So it's not like I was super brave and just went and did it every time. Sometimes I'd pull up to an area in the neighborhood and talk myself out of it and drive away and get mad at myself to try to get to the next one. So, it's just repetition, that's just how it's. But the story that I could think of off the top of my head was kind of similar, just with not the gun. This house was, again, it seemed vacant. I knocked on the door. No one answered. I tried the water spout. There was no water coming out of it. And I thought, okay, this is cool. I'm going to look around. So, yeah, I started nosing around and got to the backyard and all the way back to the sliding Acadia door there. And as I was kind of peeking in there, the guy jumps out and he's got a bat or some kind of stick in his hand. Big old massive biker guy chases me around. I didn't even have time to talk or try to explain myself. He was chasing me good. Good thing I was younger back in those days. I jumped that fence pretty dang quick. got in my truck and drove away. I could think of that one. And then I think of a lot of other embarrassing times just because I had no scripts and stuff. And there was somebody working under a truck at one of the houses. And I kept calling him sir, sir, and sir, sir, sir for the longest time. And after talking to him, got mad at me because it was actually a female the whole time I was talking to her.
Well, you're trying to be respectful. So that.
Yeah. But I just remember all these little embarrassing moments and fun things that, you start to slowly get tighter and tighter and better and better and be a little more careful and more cautious.
Yeah.
I got chased away. Yeah, I got chased away pretty good. And that scared me pretty good. I like you, I said, I'm going to take the rest of the day off.
Yeah. Well, for me, the failures that I had at the beginning, I really look back on and think like, that's the best thing that could have possibly happened to me at that point, because now I appreciate what we have so much. And I'm sure that this resonates with you as well. Whenever we have those kinds of problems, it builds a lot of character, and the character is what you're going to need for the bad times, because you're always going to have a problem. Like, I don't know anybody that has a business that doesn't have some kind of problem, but with the problem, there's equal opportunity. And I believe that with everything, but if I had some of the things that I see in the market right now are people that have been in the business 2 years and they've never had any kind of a difficult issue at all, or at least seemingly, right? And so whenever there's a bad time that comes for them, they're not going to have the determination and the commitment to the business that we have. It's because we've just been in it too long at this point, and you've been in longer than I have. So I really appreciate the struggle that I've had, and I'm sure you probably feel the same.
Oh yeah. And then as an agent later on, I got licensed and did things. Some of those stories of showing houses that were supposed to be vacant, it just goes on and on. There's just so many of those stories.
Right. Very cool. So tell me about your business now, because you've got some really cool things going. Tell me what you're up to.
Well, for right this minute, it's just me. So I don't have any team or anything anymore. I don't have any virtual assistants. I mean, I really kind of narrowed it down to just a simple system that I can work and close about 3 deals a month. I'm doing real simple stuff. The plan is to build up a little bit again here shortly, but because with my background, I've had teams. I owned a real estate franchise here locally. I mean, I got licensed in 2005 because I just got really tired of chasing realtors around and trying to explain what I was trying to do and get them to work with me. But when I got my license, I kind of fell into that whole retail world and saw the potential there. So I just got so focused in that that I ended up building myself up to owning a real estate franchise. We did tons of deals back then, right before the crash happened. And then I kind of got a bad taste in my mouth for realtors, dealing with realtors all the time and training them and doing all that I went back on my own. And so 2018, do you mind if I go into some of that stuff? 'Cause I'm sorry.
Absolutely, sure.
I'm always asking that because, again, I get long-winded. I was in between 2010 and 2016. I was in pretty much cruise control. I've done so much stuff and almost all the fields, land, houses, multifamily. I paid for one-on-one coaching. I forgot what that was. I paid over 6 figures for training over the years easily. But we were doing well. So the wife was doing well. I was doing well. And I was in a semi-retirement stage for quite a while, probably 5 or 6 years. It was 2018 that I came back out of my cave. My broker at that time came to me and said that we were going to have exclusive agency with a hedge fund that was coming to town. And so that's when I came out of my retirement, I would say, my semi-retirement, and went full force again. But I'm at a different level. I don't know. I guess a different point in my mind for where I'm at right now is it's how do I work more efficiently,
Sure.
less cost, and can I just do it on my own just from home? I mean, I haven't had an office since 2009 or 10 after the crash. I didn't want one anymore after that. I didn't feel it was necessary, and I thought we could do everything on the run or from home. And so I haven't ran an office that way in quite a long. Last time we had a team was where the wholesaling stuff was all virtual. So right now, though, it's just me. I'm starting to build it back up with our company Optionbee. The plan with that is just to create a real estate company that has all the options available for people. So multiple cash offers we have available for them. If they want to do traditional, we have a whole suite of things they could do for the traditional side, working with home sellers, and then creative stuff. So we're focused mostly on single family with Optionbee. All the land stuff I do, it's just kind of, I do have a land development thing coming up, but I'm all over the board in a sense, but right now it's just me, if that makes sense. So I was trying to explain is I'm not a team. I don't work 7 days a week. I don't want to work 7 days a week.
Right.
I meet a lot of young guys who like they're hustle 7 days a week. And I get that when you're younger. When I was younger, I did. Sure did. Yeah, I worked 7 days a week to build up the knowledge base and also just to get things done back in the day. But now I'm almost part-time. I got my lists and stuff that I hit narrowed down. We send offers directly to people, blind offers in the mail. So we take our time really pricing out properties before we send a mailer. And then we do really well. So we just do well with a mailer. Recently, I'm just now starting to try to get better in the social media world, the some online world. I mean, our website's terrible. It's being revamped right now. And so there's some online stuff I'm going to be doing here soon. But for now, again, it's just me. As that starts to happen and we're able to start scaling up those leads, I'll think about the team again. But my business is really simple right now.
Let's talk about your acquisition. So it sounds like direct mail is your bread and butter.
Direct mail has almost always been my number one thing.
Okay.
It just never stops working.
All right. So it sounds like you're sending a number that is your offer in your direct mail piece. So tell us about that.
I kind of learned it from the great folks over at Land Academy, so I'll give them a shout out. So this is a lot of the stuff that I learned from Steve and Jill over there. They helped me show me how to rather quickly price out properties and get an idea of an offer out. So for houses, let's talk about houses. So for houses, what we do is we take an average of what Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, and now what's the other ones? There's 6 total. And then sometimes I'll do my own comp. And we'll take an average of what they're thinking the property's worth. I'll discount it from there, whatever I feel like the market's needing at that time. And we went a little further with a discount, and then it prices it out, and we do an odd price. So it'd be something like $213,529.10 or something, kind of number like that, right? And so we'll send that offer out to people, and it gets the phone ringing, right? People call, you know how it is. You get through the few people who are mad and don't like the offer. And sometimes we buy the property at that price, but 90% of the time when we get to the property needs a lot of work, and then we're able to explain to them some of the assumptions that we took on that pricing. So the pricing does a great job of getting me in the door. We bought a few properties right at that price because they were just great deals that we could just hotel right now. But when we changed and went from just a regular postcard or a regular 2-page letter saying we buy houses to actually putting an offer on there, everything went through the roof.
Interesting. So in my experience with direct mail, I used to do a lot of direct mail, and everything that we do in my personal business is online now. But when I was doing direct mail, I was mailing 70,000 letters a month, and we had maybe a third that would be angry that we mailed them. So do you see that go up or down based on giving
as far as being angry?
Right.
Yeah, first 40 calls are always angry people. I mean, I've never gotten away from, I don't know if they're angry because I want to buy their house. It's interesting. Yeah, it's like, okay,
right.
You don't have to accept it, but the first 40 almost always like clockwork. People who are angry, people are saying it's insulting to offer, leave me alone kind of things. I always thought it was funny when people bothered to call off mailers. I get it because I have used SMS, texting, and RBM blasts. I get those people maybe being angry because you're kind of getting up in their face a little bit. But a mailer, you just throw in the trash. I don't even know why you pick up the phone and actually bother calling.
Yeah, when we were doing so much direct mail in-house, we had so many people that would mail us the letter back with profanities on it that we made like a wall of shame. It was like a whole wall of direct mail people that mailed back to us. But sometimes every once in a while, we did buy property from people that would give us a number, and it was a number that we could work with. So they would mail us back, we want 200. Like, hey, that's fine. So like, let's call these people. So I guess anything can happen. So it sounds like you're trying to buy virtually as much as possible. So someone calls in, or is that going to a voicemail, or is that going to someone answering live?
Now it's me. So I had a Pat Live, company Pat Live, used to answer all my calls. Now it's just me. So I got even more and more narrowed down. After all this happened, that's what I ended up doing. I said, okay, let me see where I'm spending money where I probably don't need to be spending money.
Yeah.
So that's the only real adjustment I made, was get my costs down. I don't need that. I was kind of throwing money around because it was a little easier. It's easier for Pat Live to answer the calls for me, but I didn't necessarily need it. But it was nice. It was nice to have the calls answered, listen to the recordings, and only call back to people I really needed to.
Right.
So Pat Live would answer it, but now it's me.
Okay. So you're answering, and then you're deciding, okay, so are you going to appointments in person at all right now, or is it everything virtual?
I like to try to do virtual, but every now and then there's someone who wants me to come out, so I'll go. So since I do all the houses here locally still, the land I do virtually all over, but the houses I still got to go to. One of the reasons why I've always really liked it is that it's just far simpler.
Gotcha.
Simple process.
Okay. So you're deciding whether or not to set an appointment or not, or I guess at that point, like, what's your process from the time that they call in?
I walk them through. So I got Podio, and I got another system set up now that I'm trying out. But I walk through Podio, find out about the house as much as possible, try to find out as much as motivation. Mm-hmm. But I've always have had much better luck in person. I've always had a much higher closing rate building rapport in person. So typically, if I'm on the call and I could tell their personalities just get tougher and tougher, I'll schedule the appointment. I mean, I don't do, like I said, I don't have thousands of phone calls coming in. I don't have to go out on hundreds of appointments. If I go out on about 6 appointments for the month, I'm getting 3 closings easy. I know I can do that all day. So, and for me, with my cost being as low as I've gotten it down to, it's a pretty simple process. So I do, if the phone call's not going the way I really, really want it, sometimes I could just really mesh with somebody quickly on the phone and get them pretty much closed over the phone, and even get them to send me pictures or a video of the house and all that. That's great. That's awesome. But most of the time, I mean, I'd say the majority of the time, I end up scheduling an appointment rather quick.
Very good. And so are you surprised that you're able to compete as well as you are in that market? Because I've always heard Phoenix is one of the more competitive markets in the country.
Yeah, it's the Mecca. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've been here for so long. So a lot of the advantages I have is I think I know just about every nook and cranny, right? So I've been here forever. I know every neighborhood. If someone's talked to me and they tell me the neighborhood, I pretty much know all of it. Or I've probably been involved in a sell or a buy deal or anything in that neighborhood somewhere. I mean, I can't tell you how many times it happens when they tell me their address and I said, oh yeah, we bought the house down the street, or I helped sell that house down a block away from you. So I think the advantage I have is that little local small, almost make it a small town guy in the big town. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So
yeah.
I've just been around for so long and know so many people, and I get referrals all the time still to this day. And the thing I like about the mailers too is I got a call just last week before, from a mail that I sent last July.
Right.
A mailer I sent last July, right? They called in and he wants to sell his house now. So I like the mailer because they tend to hold on to it and call even at a later date. Excuse me.
Yeah. We've had that happen a lot as well. We had one situation where we were doing direct mail and internet at the time, and they called us from a direct mail piece. We got it under contract, and then they decided that they might want a better offer from someone else. And so they went to our website and asked for an offer there. And we called them back and we're like, hey, I thought we had this under contract. And she ended up selling us the property. But it's always nice when like all roads lead to you sort of thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun. Let's talk about hedge funds. So how in the world did you guys become the preferred agent for a hedge fund?
Well, that I have to give all credit to my broker at the time. I don't know if you've heard of Dan Noma Jr. Dan is one of the smartest guys I know in the industry, probably one of the more powerful ones, but probably one of the quietest. I don't know if he does a whole lot of talking. He just does a lot of doing. So I have to hand that more to Dan. And when I was there, when I saw what was happening, people have asked me before, how do you give it the hedge fund? And I tell them, you need to become good. What I mean is, if you're young and you think you're just going to get into a hedge fund, it doesn't really work that way. I think niching down and making a name for yourself, it's almost like they come to you, if that makes sense. I don't know if there's a magical way of doing it. Of course, I do know that you can contact people, bug people all you want. In my opinion, the way I've always done it is I try to become great at what I do and great at my craft, and then let that do all the talking and let people come to me. So to me, that when the time's right, it happens. But that patience isn't always easy to have. So the hedge funds, it kind of came to me. I didn't really do a lot. I just tried to make myself available all the time. So Dan actually called me and called me out of retirement for that because he knew I'd come in and get the work done. And
right.
Out. So we sold them in 2018, thousands of houses. It was a mad run. 7 days a week I was working during that time. They were buying up everything.
So what are they looking for in terms of a purchase?
For them, at that time, they were looking for a rental and it had to have a certain cap. So everything we were underwriting needed to be in a good rental area. They'd pay full price, sometimes over full price, if it made sense for their rents. And so that particular fund was buying based off a certain cap rate. And that cap rate that they came in with was very aggressive. And we were able to just even go into the MLS and just buy in certain neighborhoods that we knew the rents were well. So that was the beginning of the year. I mean, it was just the first quarter. It was madness. It was just
so would the cap rate change depending on the property, or was it just a set? If you can give me a 5 cap or 6 cap, we'll buy it.
Yeah, it just had to be the cap. So the cap had to be on point, and the cap changed over the years, right? So as they got a little less aggressive as the year went on. But everything was based off that. So all the underwriting we did was based off of rents. And I noticed that a lot of the other funds that I know of, because again, Dan works with quite a few of them, a lot of them were based off rents, and all of them had different cap rates, or maybe it couldn't have a certain amount of rehab or something like that in it. And we did all that just through pictures. We didn't go out to the property. So we would estimate that as well. So the underwriting process was really the key thing. Comping what the house was worth, plus what it could rent for, plus what you thought it might need in rehab. And so they needed experienced people who understood all that really quickly. So if I looked at some pictures, I could start telling you want this rent ready. We're going to do this, that. And then I know I can comp in pretty much 2 seconds in Phoenix. Phoenix is a rather easy market to comp in.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
In my opinion, because there's just a lot of cookie cutter, a lot of it. So it's one of the easier markets if you're doing comps. And people still come to me and ask me how to comp. I'm like, boy, if you can't comp in Phoenix, you're going to be in trouble.
that would be a real problem. It's like you don't know what you can buy something for if you don't know what it's worth.
That's right.
That's a real problem. Switching gears. So let's say someone is very new to the business. They've never done a deal. How do you recommend that someone get started that has never invested before?
I'm an old school mindset guy. And so every time someone comes to me, which I've had quite a few come to me as new people, I always work on them first before I even start teaching them anything in the business. I think most of the younger people I've met now over the last 10 years who come to me and learn, I've done a lot of teaching. I created a boot camp for real estate agents back in the day. I've taught a lot of classes here for title companies and stuff on wholesaling, because wholesaling is pretty much the most popular thing I think anybody wants to know about when they're getting started. Everybody wants to know how to wholesale. My advice to them is always real simple. So over the years, I've created what I call the 5 W's. And it's real simple. I'll go through it real quick. I won't jump into it because I can write a whole book on it. And then there's like an extra plus W, but it's really is who. So it's who you are. You got to know who you are. I think that's so important. I think so many people jump in and they think I'm the Michael Jordan of real estate, when really maybe they're the Steve Kerr. I mean, I know it's a basketball thing. A documentary that's going on right now with the Bulls is pretty good. Everybody hasn't watched it. Maybe you're a point guard. You want to be a center, but you're a point guard. You got to know who you are. So I think you should take time and learn some psychology, learn who you are as a person, take some of those personality tests that are out there. I won't jump into them, but I was certified in the DISC test years ago, and I really like that. Second W is where do you want to go? And it's a 2-part to it, because you also got to know where you're at. Too many people are faking it till they make it. So I used to always talk about a map. If I'm in Phoenix, I want to get to Vegas. Well, Vegas is my goal. It's where I'm going to go. But if I'm not true to myself and where I'm at right now, how in the world am I ever going to map that out? And so I think people need to really be honest about where they're at. If you're eating ramen and things are tough right now, it's okay to be real with yourself. That way you can start mapping out where you want to go. The third W is why. So why are you doing it, right? I think everybody's heard their big why. You really, really, really need to dive deep into that. And then there's the other W is willing. What are you willing to do? So once you know who you are, where you're at, where you want to go, why you want to do it. Are you really willing to do what it's going to take to get there? So for me, I knew I had to work 7 days a week as a young person, right? I knew I had to get out there and work with my hands and probably do most of the work myself. But I just knew it. And I had to ask myself, am I willing to do that? Am I willing to do what it takes? And if the answer is no, then step back again. I can go start at the first W. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I doing this? Am I willing? And then the last one, W, is work. Right. So once you get all that stuff, you got to put in the work. And I feel like everybody's looking for that drive-through, the app that's going to get it done. And, what about this? I have so many people. What do you think of this CRM? And what do you think of this texting system? And what do you think of all that? And I'm like, man, you know what I think? I think you need to sit down and go through the 5 W's. Because once you get that done, they all work. I mean, I've never used any kind of lead generation system that didn't work at all. I mean, it feels like it worked. I just had to always ask myself, am I willing to continue with this system? So when I did the RBM blast, I wasn't really happy. I mean, it worked, but I realized this isn't really for me. Like, this is not what I want to do if I'm going to be working on my own where I'm at right now. It might be something I should add to my systems as I'm building and have a team, and I could really hit a bigger list and bigger list and bigger list and let it filter through. But for where I'm at right now, me sitting around looking at text all day, that just wasn't going to be it. Right. So, but not that it didn't work. As a young person, you got to know who you are, what you're willing to do, and where you want to go, for sure, before you start doing anything.
Yeah. And on the work side, I see so many people that they think listening to a podcast is work. They think reading a book is work. And I tell people all the time, the only work that you're doing is when you're in front of a seller that can sell you something or a buyer that's going to buy something. And everything else is preparatory to work. So if we're tracking our time, that's the only time that matters, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Last question for you. So how do you see the real estate investing world changing the next 10 years?
It's a great question. I think when I look at things, I think I was pretty surprised with how many people like these iBuyers. Do you guys have iBuyers out where you're at? Where you at there, Brad?
Yeah, I'm in Nashville, and yeah, we have them.
Nashville, used to have. So a lot of we were in Phoenix, so we have everybody. Everybody comes here to test out, right? So all the iBuyers, the open doors off the pads. I think that I was pretty surprised at what people are willing to pay for convenience. So I feel like that the real estate market has been really needing a disruption for quite a while. I mean, I feel like it's kind of an old school setup, man. And I feel like we got a lot of strong lobbyists there that are always trying to keep it, status quo. But I see a lot of things. I mean, I was working with some guys on some blockchain technology for the closing processes, but we haven't gotten too far on it yet. Just so much to do when I'm by myself. Mm-hmm. But I just see a lot of disruptions probably coming up here really soon. As far as that's on the side of if you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor. As far as like the market itself, you meaning is like opportunities and stuff like that. What kind of opportunities do I see coming up?
Well,
it's just interesting to me. I try not to look too far ahead. I really try not to, even though it's I don't know all the time what's going to happen. I thought maybe we'd have some foreclosures popping up, and I just saw an article saying these forbearances, they're going to let them pack in the back end. So I think they're trying to do everything they can to keep Band-Aids on things. I think it's only a matter of time before that wound festers a little bit. Then we're going to need surgery. It's hard because I always feel like I'm talking to the newer person. So when I'm talking about the market, it's really hard because when I'm talking to guys who've been around for a long time, it's always about keeping our eye on things, get your costs down. You know what I mean? Get your costs down and just prepare yourself in case there's a big wave that comes. But there's other things that I can't help the young people with, and that's experience. And so since I've been doing this for so long and I've been a part of the multifamily world, land world, single family world, I've been up and down all different markets, it's really hard to pass that on to somebody, if that makes any sense. I can give them a heads up and warning, but a lot of the new people I tell them, you just got to get out there. And right now, I almost never really mattered what happened in the market. I mean, wholesaling was fine. I could still get that done. I just had to adjust my prices. I mean, there was always houses moving some way or another. I mean, even if get out there and get it. Like I don't know what to say about where the market's going just because I really don't know. That's just the truth. I mean, I can guess, and I do have guesses all the time, but I try to watch it and try to be just a step ahead. I don't want to react after the fact. I want to be just a step ahead.
Absolutely.
And I look at a lot of local stuff because I'm here local. So we do have a land development. We're going to put some affordable housing on. It's called Casa Grande, which is between Tucson and Phoenix. So, I got my ear to the ground. I'm noticing some growth going out there, and they need some affordable housing. So we're going to be doing a project out there.
Very cool. Very cool. Scott, if people want to contact you or find out more about you and what you have going on, where's the best place for them to go?
You can just find me on social media. Scott Dawson on Facebook, Scott Dawson _US on Instagram. Just reach out to me there. Yeah, I'm always available to talk or chat or help out in any way I can.
Very good. Scott, appreciate you being with us.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it. Have a great one, bud.